if I had been a person who was looking for excuses, I could have found a whole lot of them, believe me. But my mother would never accept excuses. The first thing out of her mouth if we made an excuse was a poem called Yourself to Blame. And the next thing after that was the question, do you have a brain? And if the answer was yes, then you could have thought your way out of it. It doesn't matter what anybody else did or said. And when you grow up with that mindset, you're likely to be able to avoid a lot of obstacles that stop people.
And now the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. As we introduce our next guest, take a look at this map. It's a map of Great Britain. Why Great Britain? 63 million people live there. And in the 50 years of Roe v. Wade, 63 million babies were aborted in the United States. So imagine the population of that entire country being eliminated. And that's what took place until last Friday. Our next guest saw one abortion in progress in his time as a doctor and decided he was going to work to see no more. Dr. Ben Carson is joining us tonight. Dr. Carson, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be with you again.
I did not know until just moments before this broadcast of the feature film that was about you, starring Cuba Gooding. And I asked you just moments ago if it was an accurate depiction of your early life. And you told me, yes, it was. It was well done. So I want to delve into that a little bit because you, in some respects, were a poster child for children who were not aborted, but very well could have been, right?
No question about it. The life that the Lord gave me was an amazing life of choices and making the right choices and having a mother who really believed in me and made sure that she held my feet to the fire. I think made all the difference in the world in that particular case. Mm-hmm. Hollywood making a movie, that's a different story altogether. There were probably 12 different companies that wanted to make one, but they believed in artistic license, which means they get to inject stuff into it. I'm sure they would have had me having an affair with some ICU nurse. So I didn't want any of that. But this group actually, consulted with me in terms of how it was done. And did a very good job.
Well, you said that your mother believed in you. You did not say, and I'll add, that a lot of other people did not believe in you.
No, there's no question about that. And, if I had been a person who was looking for excuses, I could have found a whole lot of them, believe me. But my mother would never accept excuses. The first thing out of her mouth if we made an excuse was a poem called Yourself to Blame. And the next thing after that was the question, do you have a brain? And if the answer was yes, then you could have thought your way out of it. It doesn't matter what anybody else did or said. And when you grow up with that mindset, you're likely to be able to avoid a lot of obstacles that stop people.
Interesting phraseology on the part of your mother. Do you have a brain? Did that lead you to become a pediatric neurosurgeon?
That could have had a subconscious effect on me. I actually wanted to be a psychiatrist, but when I started listening to the neurosurgeons, I was just so fascinated with the things they could do. And at that time, there had only been 8 black neurosurgeons in the world. Huh. And people said, no, that's not the right thing for you to go into. But I'll tell you a secret. God does not dispense talent based on race.
So true, so true. And thanks for saying that. Let's turn to this abortion decision now because in many respects, we are beginning to reap the whirlwind. A lot of things are happening just as of Monday. Abortion rights litigants, I should say, have filed at least 6 lawsuits. This, by the way, is all coming from the Wall Street Journal. State judges in Louisiana and Utah are issuing restraining orders that temporarily block those state abortion bans. Speaker Pelosi looking at legislation that would preserve women's access to abortion. And this is one that I find really fascinating. The CVS drugstore chains, Walmart and Rite Aid, are now limiting purchase of Plan B pills because there's been a surge in demand. Plan B, obviously, is the pill that prevents ovulation, hence it's called the morning after pill. And then there's the Plan C pill, the abortion pill, which is a combination of 2 medications. They stop a pregnancy from growing, basically inducing a miscarriage. So this is heading where I thought it would head. Is it heading where you thought it would head?
Yes, I think we're a long way from finished with this one. And what is really amazing to me is that people are fighting to kill babies. We look back at some of the ancient societies that sacrificed humans and children, and we say, those barbarians. Are we any better? When people look back at this time later on in history, I think it's going to be quite a shameful time.
Let's talk a little bit more about the abortion pill. Is it separate and apart from the medical abortion? Is it less offensive to you and to people who are opposed to abortion? Should it be less offensive? What are your thoughts?
Well, if you're talking about something that prevents conception, I think that's different than something that destroys, a zygote after it has been formed. You have two gametes, a male gamete and a female gamete, both with 23 chromosomes. When they unite, when they fuse together, then that becomes a complete human being with 46 chromosomes that is not the mother and that is not the father. That becomes a human being with all the DNA information necessary to be a complete normal adult. So that's very different than preventing the pregnancy from occurring in the first place.
Mm-hmm. But then you move on to the Plan C pill, which induces a miscarriage. That's different in your mind, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, clearly you're disturbing a complete genetic human being at that time. And so as far as I'm concerned, you're killing.
Well, here's the problem with that. The abortion pill is really common in the United States. More than 54% of abortions are done with the abortion pill. And it's even more common worldwide. In some European countries, up to 90% of abortions are done using pills. And many people have said we're moving closer to a European model with the Supreme Court decision where abortion was less frequent, at least the procedure was less frequent. But this suggests maybe it's not as less frequent as we would have hoped. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm pleased that we're making progress. That we're coming back to putting life and death decisions in the hands of the people and their representatives as opposed to 9 unelected justices. So we're moving in the right direction. Do we still have a long way to go? Absolutely. And anybody who's ready to put their feet up and declare victory just doesn't understand where we are on the whole spectrum of progress.
Is it possible for this country to be united again on this incredibly divisive issue? We're seeing the divisions play out right now. I don't see it getting any better, at least for the foreseeable future. Do you?
Young people today have grown up in a different era. They can actually see a lot of things that were not seen back in 1973 when Roe v. Wade was put in place. And they know that inside of the mother's womb is a real human being. And if you've ever seen an abortion, and they are available to see now, you can see that head and the arms and the legs and the torso, and then introduced is this tubing, and the baby frequently moves away from it before it tears off an arm or tears off a leg, and you see the blood and material going down the tubing. That's hard to understand why anybody can do that. But then when you move to a later stage, second stage abortion, second trimester, you actually introduce a forceps into the uterus, grab something, pull and twist, and out comes a shoulder, out comes a foot, out comes the intestine. And I'm not exactly sure how people who've taken the Hippocratic Oath, quite frankly, can even do that. It is monstrous. And doing that at a time, in many cases, when a baby is viable, at ages where I have actually operated on premature babies, makes it even harder to understand how people can do that.
Well, something else that has changed since 1973 are advances in neonatal care. As a pediatric neurosurgeon, I'm sure you can help our audience understand that. There are tremendous advances made in that.
Tremendous advances. And, one thing that really struck me is, I had operated on some twins. One of them had severe hydrocephalus and was threatening premature labor. And they both would have been lost because their lungs weren't developed enough. And working with somebody I knew who was doing some experiments on sheep intrauterine surgery, we were able to put together something and operate on that baby and you could see the head shrink right on the ultrasound and buy enough time for the lungs to develop and then to be delivered. And my wife was at a banquet, and a beautiful young woman came up to her, said, "Are you Mrs. Carson, Dr. Carson's wife?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "Your husband operated on me and my twin sister while we were still in my mother's womb." You know, that's why I will never believe that it's a meaningless bunch of cells inside of someone's uterus.
Dr. Carson, before I let you go, not all mothers were as determined as your mother was to care for a child who others said was not worth caring for. It seems to me, and I said this Friday after the Supreme Court decision, that it's really time for pro-life people to step up, to put their money where their mouth is, where their action where their mouth is, to adopt kids who need adopting. Because, as I said, not all mothers are as determined as yours was. Do you agree with that?
That is such an important, and you know, it can't be just you can't have an abortion. It's got to be, we will help you with this baby. We need to make the adoption process much easier. It's so expensive, like $50,000. It's easier to adopt a baby from another country, and that's why you see so many people doing that. We need to fix that in a hurry.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.